about, all this pressure that youth are under. We mentioned in the first episode, everything that's been going on, everything that you guys have witnessed. I think one of the biggest things that I hear about, working in the health side of things is anxiety. Right?
Yeah.
I feel like everyone, even myself, sometimes I'm like, oh man, like this is too much. I feel, anxious. And I can't even believe how youth, are dealing with that. If us as, older adults feel it so hard, how are youth dealing with that?
Right.
So yeah, I know you guys have some questions for Tomi too.
No, yeah. So recently, like, I just got diagnosed with anxiety. So
Okay.
one of my questions, like, for this certain episode was, how does anxiety commonly show up in teens? Because I know there's warning signs or like there's signs beforehand. Because now I'm an adult, but then now I'm kind of looking back. Oh, okay, like what were the signs before, and like for parents to watch for that.
Yep.
Yeah, no, and thank you so much for sharing that. I know that wasn't easy to share that, and biggest thing, the reason why I want to acknowledge is that the fact that you said you got it's diagnosed, right? I think sometimes, again, we throw the word of I'm anxious, I'm this, I have anxiety, and not really knowing that if that person's properly diagnosed with it, because this is a medical term and like a medical disorder in that sense, where you have to be diagnosed by a doctor and letting you know that yes, you do have anxiety disorder, right? And there's different levels to it. But in that sense of how it can show up in teens and stuff is that aspect of kind of what we talked about earlier, but it can be the place where the person feels like they have headaches and stomach aches. And again, the irritability is the biggest one as well too. They're overthinking, they're overstimulated. I feel like that's something that a lot of times we hear a lot of people are like, I feel overwhelmed, I feel overstimulated, I feel like I don't know how to do this. And because there's so much information thrown at us every single time, like all at once, I feel like that's a huge thing that a lot of youth that I see today are kind of trying to navigate that. Like we talked about, again, our time, we had information, but it wasn't, social media wasn't a thing that we can just like, information was mostly school and obviously encyclopedias. Like that sounds so old. That sounds so old. But we had encyclopedias, so we had to open something in order to get it. But nowadays, you just go on the internet and bam, there's the headlines.
2 seconds.
Bam, there's the news lines. Bam, there's this. So you're trying to process that in your brain. And especially with teens, again, your cognitive level, you're still trying to develop it. So imagine your brain is trying to get all this information. You're kind of like, what do I do with it? How do I handle it? What am I supposed to take with that, right? So I feel like that's the biggest thing, that from there you could start seeing the shutting down, the overthinking, the overstimulation, the kind of like, this is too much, I feel overwhelmed. And then it starts becoming that type of symptoms where it's physical, where it's like, I feel like I have a headache. And then you know how like sometimes you hear some teens that are like, I feel like I have a migraine. In my head, in my opinion, and again, this is I'm like, you're too young to have a migraine. What's going on? That's old adults that I hear that say they have migraines. So I feel like that's something that I'm now starting to see, that a lot of stuff that you hear, the chronic conditions of that physical aspect of like, I feel like I have a headache that's still there. My stomach is always hurting. I'm feeling like I'm just like want to throw up or whatever. There's something more that you feel like, okay, what is giving you these symptoms? Because I remember a lot of this stuff that you see physically, a lot of the stuff sometimes that youth can be saying, and again, it could be like actual physical chronic conditions, but many times when you actually sit there and dwell with it, they were like, well, I am handling a lot at school. My mom said I need to be this way and I have to do this, or my coach is expecting me to come to practice like every single day, and I'm the starter, I'm the varsity, there's these like stuff. So then the more you talk with them, the more you start saying, okay, these chronic conditions that you're probably facing, or these persisting, I want to say chronic, but persisting type of physical conditions that you're facing are also stemming from other type of things that you're probably putting too much of your brain power, your body power, and everything power, that now your body is starting to feel it, because our body does take the score. There's actually a book on that. Your body does take the score. It does take the score, and it's gonna somehow show up in your body that something ain't right. And so again, anxiety has to be a diagnosis. So if you're starting to see those things persistent in a teen, it's not like a short time. I think it has to be longer than weeks and months. And then you go to a doctor and they're saying, yes, you have anxiety. Then it's like, okay, this is how we're starting to see. So there is symptoms, there's early warning signs of it. And that's where you have to make sure you go to the doctor to really understand if there's something more.
For sure.
And I think that it really does tie to like, I think just by experience, like me being like the oldest daughter and like always have to like feel like I'm perfect and stuff like
feel
that.
you, yeah.
I've always like pushed myself, but no one really saw like, okay, like internally I'm not okay. Like I'm just like handling, like I have to do good in school, I need to do good in sports, I need to do like above and beyond. I need to make sure that in my class, like I'm the one doing the most. I'm doing volunteer work, I'm working, I'm doing all these things.
Yeah.
But it's just hard to handle like mental health too. So I think this is very important, like right here that we're sitting down and talking about this, because I didn't necessarily feel like, I felt like some sort of like self-shame, like, okay, like I can't say it out loud because then that makes me not perfect. Sorry.
No, I want to say I acknowledge you, because as a firstborn daughter too, I definitely feel that at times, and still at times do, and that's probably pressure I put on myself at times, but I understand, and I just want to acknowledge you on that. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I know it's tough to, you know, open up to, you know, to other people about stuff like that, especially if it's been within you for this long. But I think that's, I mean, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's a big step, right? To the healing process, I guess you could say, right? Actually acknowledging that you might have anxiety, that you might have these issues. And, you know, that's, I think that's the biggest step, because that's, you know, that's probably the hardest one to take.
I agree.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Yeah, I've heard that like acknowledging your flaws is the best way to become better, like self-better yourself. So, I mean, like you said, school and everything, I don't know what kind of pressures you face besides just the ones you mentioned, the surface levels, but I feel like school like triggers a lot of it.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I think definitely school, honestly, in my opinion, definitely can trigger a lot. I mean, you're putting a group of different individuals in a one space to learn how to navigate, to learn how to talk, to learn how to like basically share this kind of communal space in order to like, you know, do better in school, get your education and stuff. So of course, as because of people, we're all gonna in some way do something that the next person doesn't like, right? So there's always a lot of those factors. But I think those type of biggest anxiety triggers that can happen into school is, again, the grades, the tests, the comparison, the aspect of feeling like, oh my God, I'm disappointing my parents or my community. Again, just that aspect of like, maybe you are the overachiever, like you just said, and no one really understanding that deep down inside that you're actually going through a lot and you're putting on this mask. And that's how I felt as well too when I was younger as well, where it's kind of this thing of like, okay, well, everybody knows that I'm this. So you think you could only be okay, flamboyant, extrovert, like everybody thinks, but not knowing deep down inside, or times when you're alone, that you actually probably cry. And I will say that I had moments that in my life where I would be like, oh my God, Tomi, you're the extrovert. Oh, you're always the bubbly. You're always this. But then I'll be like, haha, yes. And then go home literally that same day, start crying. And you're like, whoa. Yep. And obviously it took me time, and it took a lot of God helping me to really know who I am and really take away those like things that I was believing, that I'm not enough, I'm not good, I'm not this, like all those lies that I believed for years. Yeah. And so that's something right there that I feel like sometimes schools can trigger that in aspect. And if there's no resources that can come to it, I feel like that's a huge aspect, because you're having all these youth in a place for almost like how many hours? What, like
8?
Yeah.
9 to 5.
Right, 9 to 5, basically. Right. No payment, right? I'm just kidding. But basically, like, 8 hours, and you have to learn how to commune and how to conversate with somebody and stuff. So there's going to be a lot of things that if you're not giving resources or some type of aspect to give an outlet and just feel like they can breathe, it's going to put a lot of triggering aspect of like, okay, well, my school only expects us to be this way, but doesn't allow us to actually cognitively think this way or that way. And I think even learning styles, I want to mention that, is learning styles is a huge one, because I think here in America, we're very big of like teacher, we sit down, we take our notes, but sometimes some people are like, I need to do hands-on. I need to just listen. I need to maybe doodle as you're talking. But sometimes when you see a doodling, you're like, you're not paying attention. It's like, no, maybe they are, but they just need to kind of they need an outlet, you know? They need a way to kind of process what you just said. So I think that right there, I can go on and on, but
I agree with you for sure. I want to jump in and ask one of you guys' questions, because I think it's a really important one, and I am actually super curious about this one. So I know we are talking about teen anxiety, but is this different than stress? Like, how would you explain that to someone like me that really doesn't understand that, because I would think it's the same thing.
Yeah.
But it's not.
I love that you said that, Valentina. It's like, yes, it is definitely different from stress, right? The thing is, what I think sometimes, again, we throw this word out a lot of, I feel so stressed. Actually, stress could be a good thing. We need to actually have stress in a way, because that's kind of like, and again, I don't know the full science of it, but stress in a way kind of helps us to motivate us, like to be like, okay, I got to get up and do something, right? Because if we didn't really have some type of like, I guess, internal type of thing that says, hey, you got to work on this, or hey, you got to do this, we're probably just going to be sitting down just chilling all the time, right? So I think there's good stress, and of course there's the bad stress when you continue to stress over it or continue to worry about it, continue to do this. So when I say good stress, let's just say, okay, for instance, a person's, planning their wedding, right? Of course, beautiful wedding, they get to marry the love of their life, he or she, right? And so, but we already know how many times we always understand the planning aspect is like, everybody's like, oh my God. Like the planning aspect of weddings can be a lot. So even though this is a joyous day, you get to be with your family and your friends. And of course, the planning can be fun because you're like, for a girl, it's wearing the dress and the this and that. And I don't know how the guys are on the other side, but you know what I mean? It's right, the tux. But it's supposed to be joyous, but there's still that level of like, oh my gosh, I have to plan this 6 months, a year, gotta get family. So there's still some level of like, oh, this could be a lot, but it's still a good thing, right? But now, take it for instance that, especially if you're doing a wedding and you're just overthinking, you're like, this is not right, and why is no one understanding what I want? And it can then lead to that type of chronic stress where now the person unfortunately gets to the point of exhaustion. And there's like this continuum thing, and you don't want that place to get to exhaustion, because then it gets to burnout, and it's not fun, right? So stress is kind of almost like, I would say, that very short-term aspect, right? Maybe again, your grade, you're studying for a test or whatever, so you're feeling a little like, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling, overwhelmed, nervous, I gotta do this. But for anxiety though, now again, and that's why I was saying where it has to be diagnosed by a doctor, right? So you can't just always say, I'm anxious all this way, or I have anxiety, because I think sometimes people say I have anxiety, but they're not actually medically diagnosed. And anxiety is more chronic. Anxiety is like, this is something that you're worrying for probably months at end, almost a year, even more. And now it's showing up in different ways where, again, like we talked about, you're feeling, the headache, the stomach, you're in a place where you feel like you can't really maybe think as much, and it's happening persistently. This is something, stress probably is maybe weeks. It probably happens even a day. And then after that, you're like, you wake up and you're like, okay, we're fine. Whatever. But anxiety is like, no, every day you're waking up like, oh, this is a lot, and you're tired, and you're this, and there's just so much that mental load. And this is happening at months. And that right there, I think in that way is a difference of stress and anxiety.
I have also a question. I always wonder about this because, how people have anxiety and stress is like kind of, on par with it. Does it cause like burnout? I always like wonder. Burnout is like a big thing that I've experienced a lot. I feel like I'm going really hard at it, going 10 hours a day, and then the gym, and then athletic activities, and then studying and all this. And then I feel like there's one day that it just all crashes down. So I don't know if it's related to anxiety, maybe stress, maybe both. Above.
No, I think that's a good one, Jahziel. Like, it's this place of, yes, like, if you're constantly going and going and going and you're not taking a break, of course it can lead to burnout, especially if it's a lot all at once, right? I know we're in this culture today of hustle culture. Everybody's like, I gotta get my money, I gotta do this, I gotta, right? You already know, y'all. Like, everybody's like, we're about that business today. I'm not, no team, no sleep. And I'm like, oh, no, we need to sleep, y'all. We need to sleep. So, if you're constantly just going and working on something, which is not bad, you have to have moments where you have to be like, you know what, today I got to put it in a little bit more. I might not sleep, but tomorrow I'll make sure to sleep, right? So we have those moments that you kind of have to put a little extra oomph, because again, you have to finish it, right? But if you're doing that constantly over time and you're not taking a break, and it's like every day, weekday, you're barely getting 4 hours or 3 hours of sleep, of course it can lead to burnout. It can lead to exhaustion. Our body needs sleep. Our body needs a moment of breathe. right? And I feel like, again, I tie this to faith a lot, where it's like they always say the seventh day God rested and he took his time. He still built and he rested. And I think that shows us as human beings, we have to do the same thing too. Yeah. Build, do your great stuff, but have at least a day to rest. Yeah. Have at least a day to just kind of say, okay, today, mentally, physically, I'm not about to do anything today, because that's not how we're wired. So if you're seeing someone that's like, okay, I have to go in, I can't go to sleep, I can't do this, you're like, I get that. Please do it. It's good, because we have to get those goals of whatever you're going, but you have to still incorporate some moments of like, I just got to rest and stuff. So I see that a lot, and that can hit a lot of different aspects of burnout to exhaustion and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I completely agree. Like, especially with the hustle culture, like, I feel it like a lot, and a lot of the people like within my community, for example, like I'm Indigenous Mexican, but I know a lot of like the Latino community kind of like feels that pressure of hustle culture. Like, we have to constantly do more, and especially like having immigrant parents, it's just like that whole mindset of like, oh, I can't sleep, I have to do more. It's just overwhelming. I feel like topics like this are so important to acknowledge, because you never take the time, like, because you're working so much, you never take the time like, oh, like, let me just stop, and it's okay if I take a 30-minute break.
Okay.
You know, it's okay if I just think for a second, and like, it's okay. We don't have to constantly push through. It's okay to talk about feelings. It's okay to like enjoy time with your family. And so
for sure,
that's like also very important. And I kind of like have my own routine, like, since I have anxiety, like dealing with this realistically. Yeah. But I wanted to ask you, especially like how, like, what helps like calm anxiety, like, realistically, especially explaining that to youth. Like, I've never had to explain that to someone else. I love that. How do we like conquer like anxiety, like day to day? What are little things that like are going to make the youth feel like kind of comfortable with themselves in a way?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Comfortable in themselves. I love that. Thank you so much, Scarlett, for sharing that. I feel like, again, when I was talking to youth in that sense of like suicide prevention, mental health, and ways of like self-care, right? Because that's a huge thing. Like, we hear the term self-care, take care of yourselves and stuff like that, and take ownership of your mental health. That's a big thing for me. And I think that's a big place where it's like self-care is going to be really important in that. And you're right. We don't have all the, like, we could take off a week or take off days to take care of ourselves. Sometimes you just need to do like little moments throughout the day that you just like, okay, I'm breathing, and then you can keep going and stuff. So a lot of times where I always tell people is find what you like to do specifically. I think as a young person, as a teen, find what you like to do specifically. Now, I get it. Maybe, you know, you like to take walks or whatever. Or maybe you're different from how your friends like to take care of themselves, right? Maybe some person's like, I like to wear makeup, and other people are like, no, I just want to sleep. And I'm like that, honestly. But find what's good for you, and find what's healthy though, because I always tell folks, like, just because it's something that you're like, oh, well, this takes care of me, but it's substance abuse or it's doing something that's just not good, that's not helping you long term. It's making you feeling overwhelmed and tired, and you're not really actually fixing the problem, right? So you want to find healthy coping strategies. You want to find things that can help yourself short term and long term. So a lot of it is, again, if you could take a walk, be in nature, look at the sky, look at the birds.
I completely agree. Yes.
Right?
I'm very big on nature. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And I love that too. So that's a big thing for me. I'm like, oh, let me just be outside and look at the sky, like, for a minute, right?
Sun.
Come on.
People joke about that all the time, but yeah, you do need sun.
Yes. Yes. And we're more melanated, y'all, all of us. Like, so we need the sun to like penetrate us.
Right. Yeah, I need to just lay down in the grass.
Yeah.
It helps,
we need an extra 30 minutes.
Yes.
Extra 30 minutes.
Yes. No. And even to, like you just said, the sun, being outside, going to the beach or whatever, if you can, right? Or going to like areas that are just a bit more in that nature, or grounding exercises. Breathe maybe sometimes.
Oh, yes.
Get away from your phone. Say, okay, I'm gonna turn it off, put it on airplane mode, and just be like, whew, let me breathe. I think there's this thing that a therapist has told me one time when I went to therapy, where it's like you breathe in for like about 4 seconds or 6 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, and then breathe out. I think about 4 to 6 seconds out.
I can't remember what it's called.
It's
box breathing.
Yeah,
I know they have like the little stickers. I can't remember, but those are really great to give out to kids too.
Yes, they do have stuff like that. So those type of things where it's like, if you're feeling overwhelmed, it's okay to just like, let me step away. Let me just breathe, breathe out, take a moment. I think they even say you could hold your chair or have like some type of like object. Like there's times where some people, again, if they're diagnosed with ADHD or anxiety, they sometimes have like a
fidget thing.
Yeah, like a fidget or something.
Stress
ball or something that just to help you kind of like process what's your mind. So you could do that maybe in class and just like, hold the stress ball or fidget or something. And for me, as I'm getting older, because I'm just always doing something, I'm like now at a place where I start doodling or I start like, or I start kind of like fidgeting with something because my brain is like active all the time. So sometimes you have to do those moments just to kind of like ground you as well. And again, movement. I think lots of times, like if you are, whether you're in like, what is it called? Extracurricular activities, like moving your body, cheerleading, whatever that is. I think that's a huge thing. But if you don't like to do stuff like that all the time, I think journaling, meditating, praying, talking to family and friends, the social aspect of that. If you're not feeling okay, make sure to go say that to somebody. And if you, as a teen, I think if you see somebody kind of looking like they're distant, be okay to go up and say, hey, I noticed that you're not, you're isolating yourself. You want to come and sit with us? I feel like, I don't know how it is in schools these days, but I feel like we need to start doing more of that. Like, hey, sit with us, come and sit with us, because sometimes again, we don't need to have the popular groups and this cliche and everything. We have to understand we're all people at the end of the day.
To be together in community.
Yes.
Like 100%.
Again, because you don't know how maybe next, like after you graduate, you're going to see that person. And many times I've actually have met up with some folks and I'm like, oh, look at us. We used to go to high school together, whatever. So that's an important thing as well, too, to like understand that social aspect and how it actually can probably help you in the long term.
No, yeah, I agree with her a lot, actually, because I've been to Mexico a couple times and, I experienced like the different culture. But one thing I really realized from Mexico is that a lot of people are really social, super social, and they get along with everybody. I'm on the bus or something and someone's like having a full-blown conversation with me, and I feel like that helps a lot because I never see them in a bad mood, especially like
no, it does.
Yeah, I feel like they feel more free,
I agree.
And I feel like they need to implement that here and make it more culturally valid.
Especially nowadays with everything going on.
That part.
Especially like I noticed like this is just like adding on to you, like in Mexico, like even if you're introverted, I feel like no one really shames everyone kind of just talks. I don't know how to explain it. Like social, the culture is even like
the culture.
If people are introverted, like there's still that level of like, oh, I have to like say hi like to everyone passing by or like just making small talk in the stores and stuff. And like here I noticed like, oh, like I say hi, now everyone says hi to me.
They're kind of looking at you like you're like,
well,
why are you saying hi? Like just being able to talk more in community is something that needs to like be valued more. I feel like especially like in the US, like especially that toxic like hustle culture and like oh like I have to do it all on my own. No, that's not always like what has to happen.
Hit a nail on that one.
It's better to be stronger together, especially like under these conditions with this administration, like 100% with everything going on right now.
For sure.
I think we just need to hold each other stronger and just talk to one another, hang out, share resources.
Like timestamp this is conversation right here. Yeah. Because for sure. I mean, I'm Colombian and culture is extremely similar to the Mexican culture, and I see it too. My parents, we've been here for over 20 years and they are telling me like, oh, we want to retire in Colombia, and that's tough because, I'm going to be here, if I have kids in the future, my kids are going to be here. But I don't blame them. The life is like so much more calm. You're not like running and rushing and, getting this done. Like you said, everybody says hi to everyone, it's just different. So I think maybe what we can do is, as this upcoming generation, you know. I mean, we're like probably right, you know, ahead of you guys a little bit. But, you know, like we can all put these two generations together and maybe start creating a culture like that here.
I love
you know?
that.
Something where, like you said, you know, you see someone by themselves, at least just smile, you know?
Yeah.
You never know. You never know. You know what I mean?
A little bit of acknowledgement.
You know,
so it'll cheer up someone's day.
You're another
know?
person.
You're another person. I love that.
Exactly. So I think this is great. I think, you know, this is amazing that we're having these conversations. And I mean, I'm sure people out there, you know, are watching this and probably nodding their heads like, yeah, what she said, what he said. So thank you guys. Thank you guys for all of these conversations. I think, you know, it's been really great. And I know we have, you know, more topics to cover, but this has been really great.
Thank you.